Hey friends! My name is Desiree, aka Mama Friendly, and I do all sorts of videos on my channel. From cooking videos to planner videos, vlogs, hauls, homeschool videos with a Disney twist, a little bit of everything. So if any of these things sound like fun to you, I hope that you'll subscribe and join me on my YouTube adventure. This video is special because I am co-hosting with Ingrid at the Ingrid Chronicles. She came up with this idea to do a SouperBowl collab. So basically, we're inviting friends to join us in making soups that we can enjoy this SouperBowl game weekend. If you're an old friend, you might know that I exclusively eat gluten and dairy-free. And so I decided to make a gluten and dairy-free version of a soup that you've probably had before, lasagna soup. And this version is easily adaptable to make it low carb or keto as well. Remember, this is a collab, and that means that there's a playlist. So if you look in the description box of my video, you're gonna find the link to Ingrid's channel, and you're also gonna find a link to that playlist so that once you've watched my video, you can go and see what all of our friends made as well. And without any further ado, let me show you how I make lasagna soup.
All right, friends, as always, I like to begin with my ingredients. So the recipe calls for a ½ pound of ground beef, but I went and used a whole pound. You also need a ½ pound of ground Italian sausage. Make sure you're checking the ingredient list if you're trying to go for gluten and dairy free. You need a half a yellow onion and a green pepper that have been chopped up or diced. I just had a bag of frozen pepper and onion mix, so that's what I went with for ease. You need a cup of mushrooms. That's optional though. If you prefer not to have mushrooms, that's totally fine. 2 cloves of garlic minced, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, a 24-ounce jar of marinara sauce. Again, check your ingredients. You can use red pepper flake. I left it out. 2 tablespoons of dried parsley, half a teaspoon of dried oregano, a teaspoon of dried basil. The recipe calls for 6 cups of chicken broth. I had chicken bone broth that I made in my Instant Pot. I'm going to go ahead and post a link in the description box to my recipe for that. It's really easy. You also need 9 gluten-free lasagna noodles that have been broken up. I had a hard time finding that, so I'm just using some Banza brand rotini. It's a garbanzo bean based pasta, and it's my favorite gluten-free pasta. I think it has the best texture. You want 2 cups of fresh spinach leaves, salt and pepper to taste, and some dairy-free cheese to serve. So I'm starting out by getting my big pot, and I'm going to put my ground beef and my ground sausage. I'm making a ground sausage by cutting the casing open and just kind of pouring out the insides, if you will. I'm just putting everything into the pot, and over medium heat, I'm going to cook it up until it's browned. It's probably going to take about 5 minutes. Once the beef and sausage are cooked and broken up some, go ahead and drain the grease. And the next thing we're going to do is add in our onions and peppers. We want to saute this for about 5 minutes, stirring occasionally. I'm going to go ahead and add in my mushrooms at this point and my garlic as well. Just have all of my flavoring components come together and start cooking down and releasing their flavors. Once the veggies have softened up some, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next ingredients. As you can see, I've got 2 little ice cream scoops of tomato paste here. Anytime that I have to open a new can for a recipe, I find I never end up using the whole thing. So I end up using a little ice cream scoop and putting it onto a pan and just freezing it. And then I keep it in a Ziploc in the freezer so that I always have tablespoon-sized bits ready to go. So I put my 2 tablespoons of paste in here. This brand of marinara sauce I really like because I know that the ingredients are safe, so I'm going to go ahead and throw the whole thing in. And now we're also going to add in our spices, so our salt, pepper, basil, parsley, and oregano. And lastly, I'm going to throw in my ice block basically of bone broth. The next step does not happen until this whole thing comes to a boil. So if you're also using frozen, no big deal. Just go ahead and let the soup come to a boil, and we'll move on to the next step at that point. So now that we've achieved a boil, I'm gonna go ahead and throw my entire box of pasta in. Remember, I used the Banza brand rotini because it's my favorite gluten-free pasta. Use whichever one you like, or just use regular pasta, whatever your family likes, right? That's what we're gonna go with here. You're gonna boil this for 8 to 9 minutes on medium high until the pasta is tender. And if you wanted to actually keto-fy this or make it low carb, you could spiralize some zucchini and use zucchini noodles or zoodles instead of pasta. So that's another alternative. So the very last thing is going to be optional, but I think it's a great way to get some veggies into the kiddos without changing the flavor and texture of the soup too much. Plus it adds a fun little pop of color. I'm gonna add these 2 cups of spinach leaves, and you could turn the heat off at this point even because the heat from the soup is gonna finish wilting that spinach down. Absolutely delicious. When it comes time to serving, you can do dairy-free ricotta, you can do some fresh basil on top. I just used some Follow Your Heart Parmesan. It's my favorite dairy-free cheese. I find that it melts better than any I've tried. The texture's great, the flavor's great. It's the only dairy-free cheese I actually enjoy eating. So I always recommend it to everybody, especially people that are just starting out on dairy-free and don't know where to turn. Definitely go with Follow Your Heart. This was so good. Sure to be a crowd pleaser, whether your friends are gluten and dairy-free or not. Definitely recommend. Can't wait to have this for Super Bowl weekend.
All right, friends, that's how I make my gluten and dairy-free lasagna soup. It was really hearty, super delicious, and extremely easy to make. And I can also confirm that it reheats great as leftovers, whether you're doing it in the microwave or on the stove. You can even make the recipe up until the point right before you throw the spinach in, cool it down and freeze it, and then when it comes time to serve, you just heat it up on the stove again so that it comes to a boil, and then go from there, add the spinach and your cheese and whatnot, and you can serve it for a make-ahead meal. If you decide to make this recipe, I would love for you to come on back and let me know how you liked it. And of course, I want to remind you before you go to check out that playlist so you could see what all my friends made for their Super Bowl collab as well. I want to thank Ingrid so much for thinking of me and asking me to co-host, and I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, I hope that you will please give it a big thumbs up. I'd also love it if you would subscribe and click that notification bell because I post at least 3 times a week and I wouldn't want you to miss a minute. Thanks so much again for watching. Bye!